Welcome to part 2, where I'm looking through some comic exercises done by my students in class, and I would be commenting on how I would make these clearer and flow smoother. Okay, so in this one, it's kind of clear. It's just that certain scenes are a bit awkward. So it's great that the student opened with an establishing shot, so we know the context of the whole scene. This looks like a classroom. There's a teacher in front pointing to the word music, so I'm supposing it's a music class. He's pointing at a student and looks like sweat drops, so I think the student is a bit taken back at being called out. First off, the spacing in between the boxes are really big. So when I read this frame, it takes a bit more time to jump to this frame, but if I put it closer, the transition would feel a bit more seamless. So keep the gaps smaller, especially the side-to-side ones. The whiteboard was cropped. Let's try to put the whole whiteboard in. Now he's pointing at the student. We're flipping from his view. There are a few ways to draw this scene. The teacher has specs. Let's just rethink this. I think this is better. What do you think? Because we already have an establishing shot, I think it's okay to do more cropped scenes. Actually, how the student did it was more intense because it's a more extreme close-up. An extreme close-up would give more tension to the scene. So this is how I would make this scene smoother and clearer. In this one, there is a bus. There's a girl sitting in the bus window. It looks like this is from the inside of the bus. We see the bus driver and it has the word arrived. I'm assuming it's a digital screen that says arrived on the front of the bus. It's a bit big. The girl is seated and looks like she's kind of getting up. She presses the bell and she walks, I guess, walking to the exit of the bus. How do we make this clearer? Again, there are several ways to do this. We can show a wider shot of the bus. When it is an establishing shot, it's good to give more information. We can have the girl in the bus window, which is fine, because then we tell the reader that she is in the bus. And instead of showing the arrival screen in the bus, we can also communicate that by... We know that she's in a bus and she is facing this way. So if she were to press the button, we would see the hand moving from this way, pressing the button, not this way. Let's just draw a few people there. So it's a bit of a better connection between this scene and this scene. I want to keep the direction to this left to right flow since everything is that way. We don't actually need to see the bus stopping because we can hear her thinking that the bus is stopping. She presses the button. We don't need to see her get up from her seat. We can just see her press the button as the next action she does, and she's walking towards the back of the bus. Clear enough? In this one, there are two girls at a table and they are writing something. I'm not sure where they are. It could be at home or in school or at a cafe. This girl is saying, "I cannot see your paper," and she looks mischievous. There are two hands and a paper in between, so I'm assuming it's here. This girl says, "What's wrong with you?" And then suddenly there is this arrow here. I'm not sure whether this girl moved here or this girl moved here. And this girl says, "Why did you move so far from me?" This girl says, "Shut up." The other girl looks annoyed. This girl moves over, grabs the paper, and we can kind of see an invisible shape here. She snatched it right up, and there's a question mark there. I'm not sure what's going on here. And the other girl says, "Give it back." I'll try to make this clearer. If I just want to start with a medium shot like this, and if I don't want to do an establishing shot, I can just mention where they are. I put this below because I want the reader to see the picture first and then read the word. How do I show this more clearly? It looks like the paper is in between them and the paper had moved from this position. There are a few ways to do it. I'll try this way. So I chose to do this because I wanted to see where the paper had traveled, and there are also a few actions happening here. And I've just chosen to do the first action where she pulls the paper here. So sometimes when there are two actions, it may be hard to put both actions in the same panel. So it's much clearer to split it up. So this is the first action, and then we have her saying, "What's wrong with you?" In the next sequence, she pulls the paper back and she moves away. She's swiping the paper back. We can kind of figure out that this is her because of her hair and also her sleeve. And also I put this hand here, so we can assume that this is her on the right side. Next, she moves her position further. Now we can see that the distance has changed from here. So there is no need to do this distance arrow here. And we don't really need to show her walking. There is probably a few seconds between this frame and this frame. But when we show the before and after, I think the readers can put it together that she got up and she sat down further. Because of our natural eye flow, I put this dialogue further up. So we read this first and then we read this one. So she gets angry. We can do a close-up because we already know where she is. Now to show how she walks over and snatches the paper back. So when there's an action scene, there's usually a before we do the action, during the action, and after the action. For me, I find that showing the after action tends to be more effective. Most of the time, I show the after action, just like this one. I can also use small little words or even sound effects. So this is a lot clearer to read rather than she snatched it right up and then there's a question mark, and then we can see that the paper hasn't completely been snatched up. It's kind of on the way to the other side. But this one, we already show it gone all the way to the other side. The end of the action. And the last thing is this girl looks really annoyed and says, "Give it back." The mouth is not open and then the words are below. And so it's not clear that the words are actually coming out from her mouth. I think adding these will make the action feel more prominent. We will take some time to read this word, so we'll give it a bit more weight. So we read swipe, then what's wrong with you? Swipe. So this is the original, and this is my version. Of course, this is not the only way to do this. There are many creative ways to approach it, but this is how I keep it simple and make the sequence smoother. Okay, so hopefully that was helpful and it also gives some insight on how to think when doing a comic. I admit it's not super easy. It takes some time to get used to thinking in this way. But like most skills, it gets easier as we practice more. And it's rewarding to be able to tell any kind of stories with comics. So thanks for watching and I'll see you again.